session in Monaco. You know, the joke is that more often than not in Monaco, qualifying is more exciting than the actual race. And it's not without merit, given the constraints of Monaco mean that more often than not, you're not in fact going to be enjoying a race which is full of, let's say, overtaking. But qualifying on the street circuit, narrow streets, plenty of barriers, very wide cars can often be very entertaining. Today's qualifying session at the Principality, well, it proved to be no exception whatsoever, but the result of it, well, let's just say it was inevitable, because Max Verstappen, who's been having a dominant 2023, well, he ended up taking pole again, despite the best efforts of Fernando Alonso and, rather shockingly, Esteban Ocon, which is really saying something, because I mean, you could see that the third session of qualifying was pretty wild and unpredictable, because Esteban Ocon at one point was on provisional pole, Leclerc was targeting it too at one point, Fernando Alonso sat on provisional pole till the very end until Verstappen got that final lap in. And it was a pretty good final lap, because he needed to pull something out of the hat in the final sector, which is of course the shortest sector in, of course, the track. So the fact that he was down actually about a couple of tenths in going into the final sector, then managed to pull out a lap that was actually 800ths of a second faster than Alonso. Pretty good, even taking into account the fact that he has, of course, the fastest car on the grid. But that's just the nature of Formula One. It's not just about how good your car is, it's also about the driver. And Verstappen, well, he was actually on one today. He was dominating the qualifying sessions pretty comfortably, because again, even Q1 and Q2, he was up there on top. And we'll quickly go over the order before we talk about who arguably had the best and worst qualifying session. So you have Verstappen and Fernando Alonso on the front row, Charles Leclerc, Monaco native, in third place alongside Esteban Ocon, Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton in 5th and 6th, with Pierre Gasly and George Russell in 7th and 8th, Yuki Tsunoda and Lando Norris, who actually, credit to the McLaren engineers and mechanics for getting that car out there in time, because he crashed towards the end of Q2, having made it to Q3, but he only came out with about 5 minutes left on the clock. So that's your top 10. The rest of them, let's say, there's Oscar Piastri, Nick De Vries, Alexander Albon, Lance Stroll, and Valtteri Bottas, who were eliminated in Q2. Q3 saw the elimination of Logan Sargent, Kevin Magnussen, Nico Hulkenberg, Zhou Guanyu, and of course, Sergio Perez. Now this for me is the big talking point, because again, coming into this particular race, the big talk was, of course, going to be on two things. One, could Sergio Perez actually live up to his moniker of being the master of these street circuits and launch some sort of a challenge towards Verstappen? The answer would be a resounding no, because he ended up crashing in Q1, couldn't get a decent lap, and was eliminated, and will be starting the race in 20th. Now, normally speaking, if you're starting in in a different circuit, in a more conventional circuit, if you're starting 20th and you have the fastest car on the grid, there is actually hope that you can put in a few overtakes and maybe get to the top 5, maybe even a podium finish, a top 2 if you're lucky. For Sergio Perez, though, that doesn't seem likely. Why? Because again, Monaco is one of those tracks where you just can't overtake at all. It's just not very easy. It's nigh on impossible, especially in today's era where the cars are much wider, and therefore it has very few spots really to overtake. In fact, the 2003 edition of the Monaco Grand Prix saw no on-track overtakes take place at all. Every overtake that took place during pit stop. So it's not an easy track. Perez, I think, if you ask me, this is pretty much going to be that point where, whatever hopes he had of maybe competing for the title, pretty much done. The second big talking point, of course, was, the Mercedes was supposed to bring originally at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix before it got called off, but they brought it to Monaco anyway. And initial diagnosis, and remember, take all of this with a pinch of salt, because Monaco is one of the worst tracks to make any kind of judgment on upgrades, because it's just so unique to what any other track in Formula 1 would have to offer. Is that the upgrades haven't, as Toto Wolff had said, the Mercedes team principal, there's no silver bullets. This hasn't looked like a silver bullet, because the car was looking pretty mixed. In fact, Hamilton at one point was struggling to get out of Q1, managed to do so in the end, and in the end actually did end up qualifying the better of the two Mercedes. He's in P6, his teammate George Russell in P8. So again, there is, as Toto had said, there's no such thing as a silver bullet. Now that was proven here really, because there was no silver bullet. There was no quick fix. The upgrades are on, and Lewis Hamilton was in fact heard complaining on radio about the car being a very tough one to drive. So again, that doesn't look like, at least initially in the short term, it's caused a lot of changes for the silver arrows or the black arrows, whatever you want to call them. But they did say that this is going to be a starting point or a baseline for a new direction. So read into it what you will, and I think it'll be make more sense to read into things once you get a look of it in a conventional circuit like say Spain next week. But the early news, of course, from Mercedes is that with the upgrades, still nothing much has changed. They're still competing firmly in the middle and in a track where it's very, very hard to qualify. Now, of course, that's not to say, very hard to overtake rather. Now, that's not to say that things might not change. Again, there is rain forecast for Sunday, and a street circuit as narrow as Monaco, it's pretty much inevitable you're going to have a yellow flag or safety car, virtual safety car, maybe even a red flag here or there. So no one's chances are actually ruled out. But at this point, it would be hard pressed to see anyone but Max Verstappen take the win come Sunday. Of course, the race will be an exciting one nevertheless, and it's going to be in a jam-packed sporting weekend. Final game week of the Premier League, the final of the IPL, of course, is also tomorrow. So plenty going to be going on. You can join us tomorrow. We'll be bringing you all of the let's say updates from, in fact, that weekend, Super Sunday for sure. And as Sanket Joshi is rightly pointing out, that Bayern have in fact rather clinched the Bundesliga on goal difference. Congrats to them. I was hoping Dortmund could win it, but that's not really happening. Either way, thank you guys for joining us on this live stream. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget, like, share, subscribe, tap the bell icon, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Leave us comments everywhere. And of course, don't forget to download the AajTak app as well. You'll get all of this news at the tip of your fingers. Plus, if you are already on the channel, go ahead and check out some other videos that we've done. For now, from my side, goodbye.